This country has every single crisis you can think of, an economy completely destroyed, with negative GDP growth creating a multi-year depression, record-breaking hyperinflation surging past 3 figures, less than 1 in 20 of its citizens able to afford a meal, leaving millions starved, government debt levels exceeding its total GDP many times over, corruption ranking among the worst worldwide, unemployment reaching 20%, a civil war displacing millions, caused by the unresolved culmination of a brutal 30-year dictatorship, the only source of wealth, oil, drying up following a splitting in 2 of their nation. This nation is Sudan, Africa's 3rd largest country, home to 50 million people. But these people have been exposed to a tragic conflict, spearheaded by 2 rival generals, both looking to seize power by force. 25 million are in desperate need of humanitarian aid, and over 8 million have fled their homes, many going to neighbouring countries such as Chad and Ethiopia, where conditions aren't exactly much better. You would think that such a devastating, widespread catastrophe would be front-page news everywhere you look, but the Sudanese people seem to have been forgotten. Nobody is paying attention. So let's detail exactly what is happening to this desperate nation and how their history links to their current situation. The roots of Sudan's troubles can be traced back to its colonial history. After gaining independence from Britain and Egypt in 1956, Sudan quickly became embroiled in civil conflict. The First Sudanese Civil War lasted 17 years, pitting the northern Muslim government against southern Christian insurgents, driven mostly by religious and economic disparities. The conflict ended with the Addis Ababa Agreement, which granted autonomy to the south, but tensions never fully subsided. Sudan is one of the most diverse countries in the world, with over 500 different ethnic groups, but strict Sharia law was forced onto all citizens by the Islamic government. When oil was discovered in the south in the 1970s, another layer of complexity was added. While oil had the potential to transform Sudan's economy, it also became a major point of contention. The northern government wanted all the benefits of this lucrative resource, but only 25% of it was located in their region. The Second Sudanese Civil War erupted in 1983, fueled by the South growing tired of the North's unfair oil revenue distribution, as well as the continued imposition of Sharia law. This brutal conflict lasted until 2005, resulting in the deaths of approximately 2 million people and the displacement of millions more. Corruption and economic mismanagement under President Omar al-Bashir further deteriorated the situation. Bashir's regime, which lasted 30 years, was marked by widespread human rights abuses. 2003 saw the beginning of the Darfur genocide, an ethnic cleansing of an estimated 200,000 Darfuri people in the west of the country. The 2005 Comprehensive Peace Agreement brought an uneasy end to the civil war and set the stage for the 2011 referendum, in which South Sudan voted for independence, taking with it about 75% of the country's oil reserves. This secession was a significant economic blow to Sudan, drastically reducing its national income. The loss of oil revenue led to severe fiscal deficits, inflation, and a devaluation of the Sudanese pound. They have also struggled with international sanctions, particularly from the United States, isolating their economy, stopping international trade and investment. In December 2018, protests erupted across the nation in response to the tripling of goods prices. These protests quickly evolved into a nationwide movement against Bashir's authoritarian rule. The following April, after months of sustained protests, the military ousted Bashir. Unfortunately, the new military-led transitional government struggled to stabilise the country. Inflation ran rampant, rising from 25% to an incredible 422% just 2 years later, by far the highest in the world. A brand new civil war has further plunged the nation into chaos. 2 sides with conflicting interests aim to take control of the government. These are the Sudanese Armed Forces and the Rapid Support Forces. This conflict has already caused widespread devastation. The US have estimated that over 150,000 have been killed so far in just a single year. The United Nations estimate that 18 million face severe hunger, 5 million of which are at emergency levels. Many of these have fled to the likes of Chad, Ethiopia, and Egypt. Most of these places are unable to feed and accommodate refugees, given their own economic struggles. Now, the war has reached an unsolved stalemate. The end is nowhere in sight. Sudan's lack of economic development development is deeply intertwined with all this instability. Years of conflict has destroyed infrastructure, stopped services, and left the healthcare system in ruins. So, how is this fractured economy functioning? One thing is for certain: Sudan's economy is not growing. GDP growth has been negative for 6 years straight, only exacerbated by the escalation of violence in the last couple of years. This has led to consistently rising levels of unemployment. It was as low as 13% just 15 years ago, but now it is officially near the 20% level, though the actual level is likely the world's highest. This is just one indication that economic activity is stalling in Sudan. Around 40% of output is attributed to agriculture, but with huge areas of land torched and destroyed, the production of crops and food has dramatically decreased. Services, too, is a very important sector, centered around the capital, Khartoum. This city has become the hottest war zone in the entire country. Millions have fled the city alone, leaving it with no workers. In terms of exports, oil has been their backbone for decades. However, it is gold that takes the #1 spot, accounting for around 40% of total exports. They export this mostly to the UAE, who have developed an interesting connection with Sudan, especially since the outbreak of war. They are reported to have supplied millions worth of arms and funds to the RSF, essentially escalating the fighting to support their own interests. Sudan also imports from the likes of China, India, and Egypt for essential food, tools, and manufacturing items they cannot produce themselves. The informal economy has expanded as formal job opportunities have dwindled. Much of the population are now wandering from place to place in search of any work. Much of it is found abroad. Do these people have any hopes for the future? Are opportunities arising in their home country? Unfortunately, it is possible that the worst is yet to come. Continued violence, heightened with foreign intervention, has lowered the chances of a peaceful outcome. That means the economic damage will only compound with time. Inflation is a great indicator. It was brought down from its extreme peak of 422% to 63% in February 2023, but it has since climbed back up to 146%. It is difficult to accurately measure these indicators in such a chaotic country, but the future prospects remain worrying. Corruption has only increased since the end of Bashir's dictatorship. Its score on the corruption index has doubled in just 10 years. This was expected due to the huge power vacuum and multiple coup attempts, but until this war is solved and a democratic government is put in place, corruption will only continue to hinder its development. The costs of war also creates a lot of debt, and their government debt to GDP ratio is concerning. 17 years ago, debt amounted to 53% of total GDP. Now that figure is 256%. A potential default would send the economy into a further downward spiral as if it couldn't get any worse. So how does this get fixed? For as long as war persists, people will continue to die, the land will continue to crumble, and the economy will continue to shrink. There is certainly not an easy way out, but with more media attention to the subject and more international help, the way forward could begin to look a little more positive for Sudan.